The crowd froze as the German Shepherd lunged forward, barking wildly at a pregnant woman near the airport gates. The woman clutched her belly. "Please make him stop," she cried. Security rushed in, passengers gasped, and panic rippled through the terminal. "Ma'am, stay where you are," shouted Officer Mark, struggling to restrain his canine partner Rex. The woman's face turned pale. "What's happening? Why is he barking at me? I haven't done anything." But Rex didn't stop. He barked harder, desperate, frantic, like he'd just uncovered something horrifying. Moments later, when the truth was finally revealed, it left everyone shocked, because what Rex uncovered wasn't a threat. It was a heart-stopping scam, one that no human could have detected, and what lay hidden beneath that calm smile would change airport security forever. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The airport buzzed with the rhythm of routine life. The click of heels, the distant hum of conveyor belts, the low chatter of travelers waiting to board. Morning sunlight streamed through the glass walls, glinting off polished floors and reflecting on endless rows of luggage trolleys. Officer Mark Henderson adjusted his cap, scanning the bustling terminal with trained precision. To most people, this was just another ordinary day. But for Mark, every minute in uniform meant vigilance, because danger often hid behind the most innocent faces. Beside him trotted his loyal K9 partner, Rex, a massive German Shepherd with alert amber eyes and a calm authority that turned heads. Rex's tail swayed rhythmically as he moved, every sense alive and tuned to the pulse of the crowd. To Mark, he wasn't just a working dog, he was family. They had been partners for 4 years, a bond forged through midnight raids, bomb threats, and long hours of silent understanding. Mark knelt briefly, patting Rex's neck. "Easy, boy. Just another patrol," he murmured. The dog's ears twitched as if acknowledging his handler's reassurance. Around them, travelers rolled suitcases, children laughed, and an announcement echoed about a delayed flight to New York. The atmosphere felt calm, almost peaceful, but peace never lasted long in places like this. Rex suddenly paused mid-stride, nose twitching. Mark noticed but brushed it off. Dogs caught all sorts of scents in airports. Still, a flicker of unease tugged at him. He'd learned to trust Rex's instincts. They'd saved lives before. He rose and glanced around, families checking tickets, tourists snapping selfies, business people clutching coffee cups. Nothing unusual. Yet Rex's posture stiffened again, head tilting toward the far end of the terminal where passengers from the latest flight streamed in. Mark frowned. "What is it, partner?" he whispered. Rex gave a low grunt, eyes narrowing. Then as quickly as the tension appeared, Rex relaxed, tail flicking once. Mark exhaled, chuckling softly. "You're keeping me on edge, huh?" He couldn't have known. Within minutes, that quiet, ordinary morning would erupt into chaos. Rex's next reaction wouldn't just stop the crowd. It would expose a secret no one in that terminal was ready to face. Mark checked his watch. 9:47 a.m. The peak rush had begun. Streams of passengers flowed through security checkpoints like tides, their conversations blending into a steady hum. Rex walked calmly at his side, nose lowered, sniffing the air with quiet precision. The K9's discipline always impressed him. No matter how loud or chaotic things got, Rex never lost focus. Then, amid the blur of movement, something shifted. A woman entered through the glass doors, her presence oddly distinct. She was tall, with light hair cascading over a navy blue coat, dark jeans hugging her legs, and a white blouse stretched over a heavily pregnant belly. In each hand she carried a brown shopping bag, their crisp paper edges swaying with every step. Sunglasses concealed her eyes, but her lips were pressed tight, as though she were holding her breath. Mark's gaze followed her subconsciously. Something about her demeanor didn't match the casual rhythm of the crowd. Most people glanced around, checked screens, or hurried toward check-in counters. But she moved differently, slow, deliberate, almost rehearsed. Rex noticed too. His head lifted. His nostrils flared once, twice. Then his body stiffened. Mark stopped walking. "Easy, Rex," he murmured, tugging the leash gently. But the dog didn't budge. His ears locked forward, eyes fixed on the woman like a radar honing in on a signal only he could sense. The woman approached the security line, adjusting her coat nervously. The faint tremor in her hands caught Mark's attention. He felt the first drop of suspicion settle in his stomach. "You see something, buddy?" he whispered. Rex gave a quiet growl, low, restrained but unmistakable. Mark's heartbeat quickened. Years on the force had taught him that Rex never reacted without reason. Whether it was explosives, narcotics, or hidden danger, the dog's instincts were razor sharp. But this was different. The woman looked harmless, vulnerable even. As she handed her boarding pass to the officer at the gate, Rex let out a sharp bark. Heads turned instantly. The woman froze mid-motion, her face paling. Her grip tightened on the bags, knuckles whitening. Passengers murmured, glancing between her and the agitated K9. The air thickened with curiosity and unease. Mark felt a chill crawl up his spine. Something wasn't right. He could feel it. He steadied his partner, eyes never leaving the woman. "All right, lady," he muttered under his breath. "Who exactly are you?" In that moment, the calm order of the airport began to unravel, and Rex was about to prove why no secret could ever hide from him. The air inside the terminal changed in an instant. Rex's bark shattered the calm like glass, loud, sharp, commanding. Heads turned. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The echo of his growl rolled through the hall, bouncing off the steel pillars and glass panels. "Rex, heel!" Mark commanded, his voice firm but calm. But the K9 didn't obey. Instead, Rex lunged forward, muscles coiled, eyes blazing with intensity. The leash strained in Mark's grip, his boots skidding slightly on the polished floor. Passengers gasped, stumbling back, clutching their luggage and children as the barking grew more frantic. The pregnant woman froze in place. "Please make him stop," she cried out, her voice trembling. Her shopping bags rustled as she instinctively stepped back, pressing one hand to her belly, the other raised defensively. Her face turned pale beneath the airport lights. Mark's pulse pounded in his ears. He had seen Rex in pursuit mode, in bomb searches, in dangerous raids, but never like this. There was desperation in the dog's bark, a kind of urgency that didn't fit the usual signals of aggression or alert. It was as if Rex was warning them, screaming at them to see something they couldn't. "Step away from the gate," another officer yelled, moving closer to the scene. Two security agents hurried forward, hands outstretched, trying to calm the crowd that was now pressing backward toward the check-in area. The woman shook her head violently. "I haven't done anything wrong," she insisted, her voice breaking. "Please, I just want to board my flight." Tears welled in her eyes as Rex continued barking, his claws scraping the floor, his focus locked entirely on her. Mark tightened his grip on the leash. "Rex, easy," he repeated, crouching low, his eyes scanning the woman, her movements, her bags, her posture. He noticed how she clutched her belly just a little too tightly, like she was guarding something, and then there was the faint metallic sound that came when one of the shopping bags brushed her knee. Something clicked in his mind. He motioned to his fellow officer. "We need to check her," he said sharply. "Now." The woman backed away, panic flashing across her face. "No, you can't." "I'm pregnant," she cried, turning as if to flee. Rex barked again, louder, sharper, and this time it wasn't just a warning. He growled deep, pulling so hard that the leash slipped slightly from Mark's grasp. The dog lunged forward, stopping just short of the woman, his nose almost touching the air near her stomach. His entire body trembled with intensity. Passengers gasped. A baby cried somewhere in the crowd. The tension was suffocating. Mark steadied himself, heart racing. Whatever Rex was sensing wasn't ordinary, and in that moment, he made the call that would change everything. "Ma'am," he said, voice low but commanding, "we're taking you in for secondary screening now." The woman's lips parted in shock. But before she could protest, two officers stepped forward. The uneasy calm of the airport had been replaced by fear, whispers, and uncertainty. And Rex, still growling softly, had just set off a chain of events no one could have imagined. The murmurs in the terminal grew louder as the officers closed in. The pregnant woman stood frozen near the metal detector, her breathing shallow, her trembling hands clutching the paper bags like they were her only shield. Behind her, passengers began recording with their phones, their whispers rippling through the hall like wildfire. Officer Mark stepped forward, keeping his tone calm but firm. "Ma'am, I need you to stay still," he said, one hand tightening around Rex's leash. The German Shepherd's hackles stood on end, his gaze fixed unwaveringly on the woman's midsection. Each growl from his throat sounded more urgent than the last, not aggressive but warning. "I told you I haven't done anything wrong," she cried, panic rising in her voice. "He's scaring me." Her eyes darted around desperately, looking for sympathy from the growing crowd. "I'm pregnant! Please, can't you see that?" Mark's jaw tensed. He'd heard fear before, genuine fear, but there was something off about hers. Too controlled, too measured. Still, protocol demanded caution. "We understand, ma'am," he said evenly. "But for your safety and everyone else's, we need to do a quick screening." Two nearby officers, Daniels and Perez, stepped in to assist. Daniels tried to calm her with a gentle tone. "We just need to run a check, okay? It'll only take a minute." The woman hesitated, her knuckles whitening around the paper bags. One of them bent slightly under her grip, revealing a flash of silver foil through the gap. Mark's sharp eyes caught it instantly. He felt his pulse jump. "Hold on," he said. "What's in the bag?" "It's just baby things," she blurted out too quickly. "Diapers, bottles. Please, you're embarrassing me." Before Mark could respond, Rex suddenly barked again, a single, deep, explosive sound that cut through the noise. The woman flinched violently, almost dropping the bag. That was it. Mark's instinct screamed louder than the crowd. "Daniels, take her to secondary screening, now!" The officers moved swiftly. One gently took her by the arm while another reached for the bags. The woman's eyes widened with terror, and for a brief moment, Mark saw something flicker across her face. Not fear of the dog, but fear of being discovered. Rex's growl faded into a low whine as the woman was escorted toward the private security room. The murmuring passengers parted to let them pass. Mark exhaled slowly, his heartbeat still pounding. "Good work, partner," he whispered, rubbing Rex's neck. But deep down he couldn't shake one thought. What exactly had Rex just uncovered? The crowd slowly parted as two uniformed officers escorted the pregnant woman away. Her steps were unsteady, her lips trembling as she repeated, "I haven't done anything wrong." The paper bag she carried swung slightly, one handle tearing under the pressure of her grip. Behind her, Rex's growls faded into low whines that echoed down the terminal hall. Officer Mark followed at a distance, one hand resting on the leash, feeling every vibration of tension running through his canine partner. "Easy, boy," he whispered, but Rex's body language didn't relax. His ears remained pinned forward, his gaze fixed on the retreating woman like a hunter refusing to lose sight of his mark. The officers led her into a small private security room tucked behind the checkpoint, a space rarely used except for special cases. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the white walls. A security scanner stood ready, humming quietly, its green lights blinking like a heartbeat. "Please," the woman pleaded as they guided her to sit. "I don't understand what's happening. I just want to go home." Her voice cracked, genuine fear bleeding through, or so it seemed. One of the female officers knelt beside her, voice gentle. "We just need to run a quick screening, all right? It's for your safety, too." Mark stood outside the glass window, watching. Rex paced restlessly, tail rigid, eyes sharp. Every few seconds he let out a low whine and pawed at the door. His unease was contagious. Mark could feel it tightening his chest. Inside, the woman rubbed her belly in small circles, murmuring under her breath. Sweat glistened on her forehead. "I'm not feeling well," she said weakly. "Please, I need to sit." The officers exchanged uncertain looks. "We'll be done soon," one reassured. Rex barked once, short, abrupt, almost like a warning. Mark's heart skipped a beat. He turned to the supervising officer. "Something's off," he said quietly. "He doesn't behave like this unless—" Before he could finish, the woman winced suddenly, clutching her stomach. Her breathing quickened, her eyes darting toward the door. Panic, real or staged, filled the air. Mark took a step forward, hand instinctively tightening on Rex's leash. He didn't know what was about to happen, but one thing was certain. Rex had sensed danger, and whatever it was getting closer. The door to the private screening room clicked shut, sealing the woman inside with two officers and a female medical screener. Outside, through the observation glass, Mark stood with Rex at his side, both watching intently. The air in the corridor felt heavy, like the silence before a thunderstorm. She looks terrified, said Officer Perez, arms crossed. You sure this isn't just a false alarm? Mark didn't take his eyes off Rex. The German Shepherd was pacing back and forth, tail low, muscles taut, eyes never leaving the glass. Rex doesn't false alarm, Mark replied quietly. Not once in 4 years, Perez shrugged. Still, she's pregnant. You saw the way she clutched her stomach. What if he just got spooked by the smell of medication or something? Mark frowned. He's trained to recognize over 50 different scents. Narcotics, explosives, accelerants, even decaying tissue. Whatever he's reacting to, it's not random. He glanced through the glass again. Inside, the woman sat slumped in the chair, breathing heavily, murmuring to herself. Her shopping bags rested on the floor, one half open, revealing neatly folded baby clothes and a teddy bear. She looks harmless, said the female screener softly. Let's just get this over with. They began by examining her belongings. Each item was scanned and swabbed. Nothing unusual showed up. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. Perez muttered under his breath. Maybe your dog just had a bad morning. Mark's jaw tightened. He's not wrong, he said firmly. He senses things we can't. If he's reacting this way, something's there. Rex suddenly whined again, pawing at the door, nose pressed to the gap at the bottom. Mark crouched beside him. What is it, boy? He whispered. The dog's ears flicked back, body trembling. He gave a soft, frustrated bark, one that Mark recognized from field operations. That bark meant distress, urgency, danger. Inside, the woman wiped her forehead, muttering that she felt dizzy. The screener offered her water, but her shaking hand couldn't hold the cup steady. Her breathing grew shallow, her shoulders tense. Mark's instincts flared. We need to get medical on standby, he said suddenly. Perez raised an eyebrow. You think she's faking? I think she's hiding something, Mark replied, his voice low. And Rex knows it. The other officer opened his mouth to respond, but before a word left his lips, the woman gasped sharply and doubled over, clutching her stomach in agony. Rex barked violently, slamming his paw against the door. Mark's blood ran cold. Call medical, now! Whatever this was, it wasn't normal pregnancy pain. It was the moment Rex had been warning them about all along. The woman's scream sliced through the silence like a blade. Every officer in the room froze. Her body jerked forward, hands clutching her swollen belly, eyes wide with terror. Something's wrong, she gasped, her voice trembling. Oh God, it hurts, please help me. The female screener sprang into action, kneeling beside her. Stay with me, ma'am. Try to breathe slowly. She turned to the others. Get medical, now. Mark was already moving. He pushed open the door, Rex lunging forward beside him, whining anxiously. The sight that met him froze him in place. The woman slumped in the chair, face drenched in sweat, trembling uncontrollably. Her breaths came out in ragged bursts, each one shorter than the last. Perez grabbed the radio. Medical team to Gate C, immediate response. Rex's usual composure shattered. He barked repeatedly, circling the woman, his nose twitching wildly. He wasn't growling anymore, and his movements were frantic, protective. He sniffed the air near her abdomen, then backed away with a whine, tail low, ears pinned. Mark, the screener cried. Her pulse is irregular. Mark knelt beside her. Ma'am, can you hear me? She looked at him through tear-filled eyes. It's not supposed to happen yet, she whispered. Her voice cracked, every word a struggle. 7 months. I still had time. What do you mean? Mark asked, confusion flooding his mind. Is it labor? She shook her head violently. No, it's not labor. Something's wrong inside. Her voice faded into a sob. Please save my baby. The door burst open as 2 paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. Step aside, one commanded. They immediately checked her vitals. BP is dropping fast. We need to move. As they worked, Rex started whining louder, pawing at the floor, then darting toward the woman's bag again. His claws scraped against the tile as he nudged it toward Mark, barking insistently. Mark frowned. You think it's connected? Rex barked once, a sharp, certain yes. Mark opened the bag quickly. Clothes, baby supplies, nothing unusual. But beneath the pile, something glinted. A small metallic patch sewn into the lining, no bigger than a coin. Before he could inspect it, one paramedic shouted, She's losing consciousness. They lifted her onto the stretcher. The woman's eyes fluttered, her lips trembling. Please, my baby, she whispered weakly. We've got you, the medic assured her. Stay with me. As the stretcher rolled out, Rex followed, still barking, still unsettled. The hallway erupted in motion, officers clearing the way, passengers staring in confusion, sirens echoing faintly from the distance. Mark ran beside them, his mind racing. Whatever was happening wasn't just medical. Rex's behavior made that clear. As they reached the ambulance doors, Mark glanced down at his partner. "What did you find, boy?" he muttered. Rex looked up, eyes burning with urgency, as if trying to tell him that the real danger hadn't been discovered yet, and deep down, Mark knew this was far from over. The ambulance bay outside the terminal was a blur of flashing lights and shouting voices. Paramedics worked frantically, securing the woman onto the stretcher, connecting IV lines, monitoring her failing pulse. The faint wail of sirens echoed through the glass walls of the airport, but amid the chaos, one sound cut sharper than all others: Rex's relentless barking. Mark gripped the leash tightly. "Easy, boy. She's in good hands now." But Rex wouldn't calm. His body trembled with intensity. Nose pointed straight at the ambulance, tail stiff as a board. It wasn't aggression. It was desperation. The lead paramedic, a man named Lewis, climbed into the back of the vehicle. "We're heading to Central General," he called out. "Suspected premature labor, possible internal trauma." Mark nodded, trying to steady himself. Everything had escalated too fast. One moment they were detaining a suspicious passenger. The next, it was a life-or-death emergency. But still something gnawed at him. Rex had sensed danger before any human had, and even now the dog refused to look away from the woman. As the ambulance doors began to close, Rex let out a guttural bark and lunged forward, pulling the leash so hard it nearly slipped from Mark's grip. "Rex, stop!" he shouted. The dog whined loudly, eyes fixed on the woman's midsection. Lewis paused mid-step. "What's wrong with him?" Mark swallowed. "He's not wrong, that's what worries me." Rex's nose pressed against the door just as it shut. He barked again, sharp, insistent, then circled the vehicle, sniffing the tires, the ground, even the trail the woman's stretcher had left behind. He growled softly, low and uneasy. Perez jogged up beside Mark. "He's still at it?" "What's he picking up?" "I don't know," Mark admitted. "But it's not normal. He's not reacting to fear or pain, and he's tracking something." Perez frowned. "Like what?" Mark's gaze drifted to the paper bag still in his hand, the one Rex had fixated on earlier. He reached inside and pulled out the metallic patch he'd noticed earlier, now reflecting faintly under the harsh ambulance lights. Rex immediately barked, plunging toward it, nose twitching violently. Mark's pulse quickened. "There's something here," he murmured. "Something he recognizes." Before Perez could respond, the ambulance engine roared to life. Rex howled, not out of aggression but alarm. His instincts screamed louder than words ever could. Mark watched the flashing lights vanish into the night and whispered under his breath, "Whatever's happening, it's not over yet." Rex turned his head, eyes locked on the disappearing ambulance, chest heaving. Even now he refused to rest because deep inside, he knew the real danger hadn't even been discovered. Back inside the airport's security control room, Officer Mark placed the woman's paper bag on the stainless steel table. The echo of the ambulance siren faded into the distance, leaving behind an uneasy silence that felt heavier than before. Rex stood beside him, tail rigid, ears pinned forward, nose twitching toward the bag like a compass locked onto danger. Perez crossed his arms. "You really think there's something in there?" Mark nodded slowly. Rex doesn't react like that over nothing. The bag looked harmless enough, slightly crumpled, smeared with fingerprints, the logo of a baby boutique printed across the front. But as Mark began removing the contents one by one, folded baby clothes, tiny socks, a pacifier still in its wrapper, Rex's low growl returned. The sound was deep, restrained, but full of warning. Mark glanced at him. "What is it, boy?" "What do you smell?" Rex stepped closer, sniffing the air, then fixated on a pink baby blanket tucked at the bottom. Mark lifted it carefully, revealing a small pouch sewn inside the fabric seam. His heart skipped. "Perez, get the UV scanner." Perez frowned but obeyed. Under the violet glow, a faint residue shimmered along the inner stitching, a thin layer of powder that caught the light. Mark's stomach turned. That's not baby powder, he muttered. Perez leaned closer. Could be narcotics, he whispered. Hidden inside the blanket. Mark's expression hardened. That would explain why she panicked. But Rex's focus wasn't just on the bag. It was on her. He examined the metallic patch he'd found earlier, now placed on the table beside the blanket. It was flat, oval-shaped, and coated with a thin plastic film. Rex barked once, loud and certain. Perez took a step back. You think she was smuggling something inside her? Mark didn't answer, but the thought chilled him. She wasn't just hiding drugs, he said quietly. She was carrying them. Rex gave a low growl again, circling the table, nose brushing over the bag, the patch, and finally back toward the door where the ambulance had gone. His body language said what words couldn't. The threat wasn't over. Mark looked at his partner, realization dawning like a slow storm. You're telling me there's more, he whispered. Rex whined softly, eyes fixed on the distance. And deep down, Mark knew the real discovery was still waiting to be uncovered at the hospital. The ambulance screeched into the emergency bay of Central General Hospital. The sliding doors burst open as paramedics rushed the stretcher inside. Female, late 20s, 7 months pregnant, severe abdominal pain, pulse unstable, one of them shouted. Doctors and nurses flooded the corridor, wheeling her into an examination room. The woman's cries echoed down the hallway, desperate and broken. Please save my baby, she sobbed, clutching at the paramedic's sleeve before another wave of pain tore through her. Mark and Rex arrived moments later, both breathless. The officer flashed his badge. Airport K-9 unit. I need updates on the woman brought in from Gate C. The nurse at the counter gave a quick nod. Room 3, trauma wing. Mark hurried through the corridor, Rex pacing anxiously beside him. He could still smell the faint trace of airport disinfectant mixed with something else. Something metallic, synthetic. Rex's nose twitched. His body stayed tense. Whatever he'd detected before was still here. Through the glass window of the trauma room, Mark watched the medical team work. The woman lay pale and trembling under the bright white lights. Electrodes clung to her chest, an oxygen mask covering her face. A doctor, tall with graying hair and a focused gaze, moved a portable ultrasound probe across her swollen belly. Mark waited, heart pounding. The monitor flickered with black and white static. Then, a silence. The doctor frowned. He adjusted the probe, eyes narrowing. That's unusual, he murmured. The nurse leaned closer. What is it? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he shifted angles, pressing the device slightly harder. The outline on the screen was wrong, jagged, uneven. Not the smooth, rounded curve of a baby's body. Something metallic reflected faintly inside. The doctor's face paled. This isn't normal fetal movement, he said quietly. There's something artificial here. Mark stepped inside. Doctor, what are you saying? The man turned, lowering his voice. There's a foreign object inside the abdominal cavity. It looks like a shell casing, or part of a sealed container. Rex whined, his body tense as if confirming it. The nurse gasped. You mean, she's not actually pregnant? The doctor hesitated. There's a structure imitating a fetus, but it's synthetic. Hollow compartments. I've never seen anything like it. He straightened, eyes widening. Get the surgical team ready. We need to remove this, or now. Mark's breath caught in his throat. She's carrying something. That's what Rex sensed. Moments later, the alarm sounded. Nurses rushed in, pushing the gurney toward the operating room. The woman's head rolled weakly to the side, eyes glassy with fear. Please, she whispered hoarsely. I didn't want to do it. Mark followed as far as the double doors would allow. Beyond the sterile glass, surgeons gathered around the table, their movements quick and deliberate. Rex sat by the door, silent now, watching. His breathing was steady, but his eyes were locked on the operating light, the place where the truth was about to be uncovered. And then, for the first time since the airport, Mark understood the look in his partner's eyes. Rex hadn't been alerting to danger. He'd been trying to save her, before the deadly secret inside her did its job. The red surgery in progress light above the door glowed like a warning sign. Mark stood motionless in the hospital corridor, hands clenched, the rhythmic click of his boots echoing faintly on the tile floor. Rex sat beside him, still and alert, his ears twitching every time a monitor beeped beyond the closed doors. Minutes dragged into hours. Nurses rushed past, voices low but urgent. Mark couldn't shake the image of the woman's pale face, her trembling hands clutching her stomach. She wasn't a villain, at least not the kind he was used to seeing. There had been fear in her eyes, but also something else, guilt. The door finally swung open. The surgeon stepped out, removing his gloves, his expression grave. "Officer Henderson?" Mark straightened immediately. "That's me. What did you find?" The doctor hesitated before speaking, as if weighing the words carefully. "It wasn't a pregnancy," he said at last. Her abdomen contained a hollow silicone structure shaped like a uterus, connected to a mechanical pump designed to simulate a fetal heartbeat. Mark's stomach twisted. "You're saying she was never pregnant?" "Not even close," the doctor confirmed grimly. The device contained multiple sealed capsules, micro compartments layered within the fake abdominal wall. "We found over a dozen hidden containers." "Containers of what?" Mark asked, already dreading the answer. The doctor exchanged a glance with the nurse beside him. "Liquid narcotics. Highly concentrated, enough to supply a trafficking ring for months." Mark stared at the floor, his fists tightening. The pieces fell together with brutal clarity. The expensive clothes, the trembling hands, the overplayed panic. It wasn't random. It was rehearsed. She was part of a smuggling operation, Mark said quietly. Pretending to be pregnant let her bypass full-body scans. Rex must have picked up the scent through the silicone barrier. The doctor nodded. If your dog hadn't reacted when he did, she might not have survived the rupture. One of the compartments inside the prosthetic had begun to leak. That's what caused her collapse. The chemical was toxic. If it had spread further, it would have killed her within minutes. Mark exhaled slowly, running a hand down Rex's back. "You saved her life, buddy," he murmured. Rex looked up at him with steady eyes, tail still. The nurse stepped forward. "There's something else. She's been asking for you." Mark followed her into the recovery room. The woman lay weakly on the bed, her skin pale but her breathing steady. Her eyes fluttered open as he approached. "I didn't want to do it," she whispered. "They promised money, said it was just medicine. But when I realized what it really was, it was too late." Tears streaked down her cheeks. "They threatened my family." Mark's expression softened. "You're lucky to be alive." Her gaze shifted to Rex lying by the door. "He knew," she said faintly. "He knew before anyone else," Mark nodded. "He always does." As he stepped out of the room, the detective in him was already piecing together the next move. This wasn't just one woman. It was a system, a network using innocence as a disguise. And thanks to Rex, the first link in that chain had just been broken. The truth was terrifying, but it was only the beginning. The morning sun filtered weakly through the hospital blinds when Mark returned to the recovery room. The world outside was waking up, but inside time felt suspended, heavy with unspoken truth. The woman lay propped against her pillow, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed from tears. Her voice was faint but steady when she spoke. "I didn't want to do it," she said again, her fingers clutching the thin blanket. "They told me if I didn't go through with it, they'd hurt my son." Mark pulled up a chair beside her. "You have a child?" She nodded, her lips trembling. "He's 6. They said he'd be safe if I carried their package. I thought it was medicine at first, something harmless. But then I heard them talking. They were using women like me, single mothers, refugees, anyone desperate enough, to smuggle liquid narcotics inside fake pregnancies." Her voice cracked. "They had doctors, handlers, even fake passports. I tried to back out, but they showed me pictures of my son walking home from school. I had no choice." Mark listened silently, anger and pity warring inside him. He'd seen criminals lie, cry, and beg before, but this wasn't that. This was a woman trapped in a web spun by monsters who preyed on desperation. "Do you know their names?" he asked quietly. She hesitated, then nodded. "The main one goes by Victor. He runs a private courier company that ships medical supplies through major airports. I was supposed to meet one of his men at the gate after landing, hand over the fake belly, collect my money, and disappear." She swallowed hard. "They have others. More women on different flights." Mark's heart raced. "When?" "Today," she whispered. "2 of them are flying in this afternoon." That was all he needed to hear. Within minutes, he was on the radio with Airport Command. "This is Officer Mark Henderson, K-9 Unit. Code Red. Possible trafficking operation in progress. Initiate full lockdown on incoming flights from Istanbul and Madrid. Subject connected to smuggling ring under the alias Victor." Hours later, chaos erupted once again inside the airport, but this time, the officers were ready. As the crowd of passengers poured into customs, Rex was already on the line, nose twitching, eyes locked on every movement. Then he froze, tail stiff. A woman in a long gray coat and oversized scarf stepped through security, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. Rex barked once, low, sharp, decisive. Mark moved instantly. "K-9 alert! Detain her now!" Officers swarmed the area. The woman panicked, trying to flee, but a quick tackle brought her down. When they removed the prosthetic belly, the sight beneath confirmed everything. Another false pregnancy. Another silicone womb filled with narcotics. Moments later, airport security intercepted a man in a dark suit waiting near the gate exit. Inside his briefcase were forged IDs, tickets, and a satellite phone, linked to a number under the name Victor Hale. Mark watched as the man was led away in cuffs. Rex sat proudly at his side, chest rising and falling steadily. "You did it again, partner," Mark whispered. "You stopped them all." Rex gave a soft whine, leaning his head against Mark's leg. The truth had been terrifying, but it was over. And once again, a dog's loyalty had saved countless innocent lives. Night had fallen by the time the last report was filed. The airport lights shimmered across the wet tarmac outside, reflecting like 1,000 tired memories. Mark sat on the concrete steps near the terminal exit, his uniform wrinkled, his mind finally slowing after a day that had felt like a lifetime. Beside him, Rex lay stretched out, head resting on his paws, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. For hours, adrenaline had carried Mark through chaos, the ambulance, the arrests, the paperwork. But now, sitting in the quiet hum of the night, the weight of it all began to settle. He looked down at Rex, who was still alert despite the long day. The dog's amber eyes caught the faint glow from the terminal lights, gleaming like two tiny embers of focus. Mark reached down, running his hand gently over Rex's fur. "You were incredible today," he said softly. "You saw what none of us could. You saved her, and maybe a lot more." Rex's tail gave a small, lazy thump against the ground as if to say, "Just doing my job." Mark chuckled, but his smile faded into quiet thought. "You know," he murmured, staring out at the runway lights, "we see the worst of people sometimes. Lies, greed, cruelty. But today, you reminded me there's still something pure about what we do. You don't see evil or innocence, you just act on what's right." He leaned back, eyes closing for a moment. The scent of jet fuel and rain mixed in the air, somewhere inside the terminal. An announcement echoed faintly about a delayed flight. The world had already moved on, but Mark couldn't stop thinking about the woman. Alive because of Rex's instincts, her child safe at home, her conscience finally freed. He opened his eyes again and glanced at his partner. "You're more than a dog, Rex," he whispered. "You're a reminder that loyalty still means something in this world." Rex lifted his head, pressing it gently against Mark's knee. The gesture said everything words couldn't. For the first time that day, Mark smiled without tension. "Come on, buddy," he said, standing. "Let's go home." As they walked toward the patrol car under the soft hum of runway lights, Rex's tail wagged slowly. Calm, steady, proud. The storm had passed, but their story, Mark knew, was far from over. By sunrise, the story had already spread like wildfire. News vans lined the airport parking lot, their antennas jutting into the gray morning sky. Reporters clustered near the security wing where it had all begun, their microphones raised, voices filled with awe and urgency. "Breaking news this morning," one anchor announced on live TV. "A trained police K-9 named Rex has uncovered an international smuggling operation using pregnant disguises to traffic narcotics through major airports." His instincts not only saved countless lives but also rescued a woman coerced into the scheme. Inside the precinct, Mark watched the broadcast quietly from his desk. The footage replayed scenes from the night before. Flashing lights, the ambulance, the arrest. Then a still photo appeared on screen. Mark kneeling beside Rex, the dog's focused eyes gleaming under the harsh airport lighting. The caption read, Hero K9 exposes terrifying airport scam. Mark shook his head and smiled faintly. You're famous now, partner, he said. Rex, sitting beside his chair, tilted his head at the sound of his name. His tail gave a lazy wag, indifferent to the attention. The phone on Mark's desk rang nonstop. Journalists asking for statements, police departments requesting K9 collaboration, and even the mayor's office scheduling a commendation ceremony. Yet despite the noise, Mark felt only quiet pride. He looked at Rex and thought of the woman in the hospital, alive, free, and ready to testify. Later that day, Mark and Rex returned briefly to the airport. As they walked through the terminal, people stopped to stare. Travelers whispered, some smiled, others stepped forward just to say thank you. A little boy clutching a toy airplane approached timidly. Is that the dog from the news? He asked. Mark knelt, smiling. That's him. His name's Rex. The boy grinned, reaching out a small hand. Rex sniffed it, then licked his fingers gently. The boy laughed, eyes shining. He's a real hero. Mark's throat tightened. Yeah, he said softly, glancing down at his partner. He really is. By evening, headlines flooded every social platform. K9 saves pregnant woman's life. Uncovers global smuggling ring. Police dog's instincts prevent catastrophe at airport. Hero with 4 paws. Meet Rex. The dog who saw what no one else could. Messages of gratitude poured in from around the world. Veterans, officers, mothers, people from every walk of life wrote how the story moved them, how it reminded them that compassion and courage still existed. As Mark read the comments late that night, Rex dozed by his side, snoring softly. He smiled, closing the laptop. Looks like they're all proud of you, buddy. He smiled, closing the laptop. Looks like they're all proud of you, buddy. Rex's tail flicked in his sleep, and a quiet, contented acknowledgement of a job well done. The sun dipped low over the city, painting the horizon in soft gold and fading crimson. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees outside the precinct, carrying with it the faint hum of evening traffic. Mark stepped out into the quiet parking lot, his uniform jacket draped loosely over one shoulder. Beside him trotted Rex, his faithful partner, tail swaying lazily, eyes calm after the storm of the past few days. The chaos was over. The arrests had been made. The woman was recovering, her family safe under protection, and the smuggling ring had been dismantled thanks to one dog's unyielding instincts. Yet despite all the recognition and media headlines, the moment that mattered most wasn't on the news. It was this one. The silence, the peace, the shared understanding between a man and his dog. Mark sat on the hood of his patrol car, the metal warm beneath him from the day's sun. He opened a small bag of Rex's favorite treats, tossing one into the air. Rex caught it effortlessly, tail wagging. You've earned 100 of those, Mark said with a grin. Rex tilted his head as if humbly disagreeing. He wasn't seeking reward or fame. He had simply done what loyalty demanded. Mark leaned back, staring at the sunset. You know, he murmured, the world's full of people hiding things. Fear, guilt, lies. But you see through it all. You trust your gut. You act without doubt. Rex's ears perked up, listening intently as if he understood every word. Maybe that's what the world needs more of. Mark continued softly. Less judgment, more instinct. Less fear, more trust. You didn't see a criminal. You saw a person in danger. You didn't attack. You warned. That's what makes you different. He looked down at his partner, the silent hero whose bark had changed everything. You remind me that real strength isn't about power. It's about heart. Rex rested his head gently on Mark's knee, eyes half closed in quiet contentment. The moment felt timeless. 2 souls who had faced chaos together now finding peace in the simple stillness of evening. In the distance, a plane roared across the sky, a reminder of where it all began. Mark smiled faintly. Another day, another life saved, he whispered. As the golden light faded and the first stars began to appear, a soft narration closed the scene. Sometimes heroes don't wear badges or uniforms. Sometimes they walk on 4 paws, guided only by loyalty and love.